25-hour break-in on the engine oil. Replace the filter, change the fluid on it. The countdown here is the wrench button, which is the third button. Push it, it's going to count down from 20. The last 5 hours, it's going to flash and say change oil now. The last, after you change it, again, filter and fluid, type in your code, unlock it, and then hold down the wrench button, and it's going to jump and set to 100 hours, so you don't have to keep track of it. You have to hold it for probably 5 seconds for it to jump to that 100. The engine light will flash. So that's your engine. It's 25-hour break-in, every 100 after that. Wheel motors, wheel pumps, transmissions, whatever you want to call them. They have a 250-hour break-in and 1,000 hours after that. It's got a dipstick on top. The fluid just touches the dipstick when it's cold, and then it's got an H line on there. When it's hot, it'll rise up to the H line. To change that, again, it's just filter and fluid. The wheel motor, down on the front of it, towards the deck, there's a cap that screws out. That is going to screw out towards the deck. Right behind it's a filter. Pop the filter out, and the fluids are going to drain out. Put a new filter in, put the cap back on it, and then again fill from the top. Just fill it till it touches that dipstick. It's not very much fluid. We sell the Parker 1000 fluid by the gallon. It's going to do a couple changes for you. So that's not going to be kept track of on your key console other than engine hours, because that's spinning when your engine hours are pumping. So 250-hour break-in, 3,000 hours after that. While we have the seat up, you need to adjust the seat suspension. There's a soft knob. This is a soft knob. There's a soft knob up underneath it. There's a nut inside. Twist the soft knob free. You can slide it forward and back and adjust it per your weight. The 3 under-seat suspensions on the SRTs, that's standard. Those are non-adjustable, but the other ones are adjustable here, forward and back. It's basically like a seesaw. It's fulcrum based, so the further forward, the more you're going to bottom out, the heavier you are. And it also depends on how far back you sit. But if you're a bigger guy, taller guy, you need to move those further back so you're not bottoming out on these rubbers here in the back. If you want to add a light, if you want to add electric discharge chute and electric deck, everything's pre-wired on the key console. And then we have plugs for the wires here up underneath by the battery. So the 2-prong here is your 10-inch LED light. The 3 is the electric discharge chute, or Spartan shield, whatever you want to call it, or the electric deck, and that runs off of the electric deck buttons. If you want the electric deck and the Spartan shield, there is an extra switch that bolts onto the side of your key console, so you can run both of those 2 things, not be tripping over the wires. Let's see. To raise the seat, it's kind of awkward. Push this down and then pull the seat up. It's spring loaded, but push it down and then pull it up. Owner's manual and engine manual are here up underneath the seat. They're zip tied. You can clip those off. Also, there's 3 fuses on these typically. If you have the EFI, it has the 4th fuse. You got 2 fuses up underneath here. The 25 amp fuse is going to run your key console. And if you ever get locked out of your key console, and I say locked out, the only reason you're going to get locked out is it's smart enough to throw some faults. If it has a readable fault and it happens 3 times in a row, it locks the key console and it says error 29 or whatever it is. So, if you know, for example, if you're just bumping that start button on the side, it's going to think there's a short somewhere. You know you are the source of the short. So just pull it out, plug it back in. Keeps all your information, code stays the same, hours are all good. It just resets the console. The 3rd and final fuse is your starter fuse back here in the back, over by the starter. So, 3 fuses. That should be everything up underneath the seat. We should be good. Air filters on these. All the commercial have the dual cyclonic, the inner and the outer air filter. Cleaner to keep your air, cleaner to keep your oil, the longer your engine's gonna last. So probably go through a few outers to every inner. The outer and the inner, both of them blow it from the inside out if you're gonna clean the air filter. Do you want me to pop this off here? There's your outer, it's white. Blue's inner, it's for all of your fine. So those have little spots to snap in there. The hard part is lining these up because they have receiving grooves for your clips, but you can do that. Let's see what else we want to do on this. You got a receiver for your hitch in the back on the frame. If you need to pull a hitch out of your truck, you can shove it in the back of the mower. Flip this back real quick. Back on. Your Kawasaki's and Vanguards, they have an oil cooler, which sit on the side. The Vanguards, Briggs, and Kawasaki's all have your oil drain. It's either sticking out the back on the side. The Briggs motors have it here on the side. Push the clip down and hang it out the back. Kohlers aren't quite as clean. They have a little bit of a nipple pointing down over the side. The oil filters, but it's over on the right side on the Kohler. Seat forward and back is this lever here, out towards the gas tank. It's got a lot of travel. What I call true up screws here. Both arms are in. These screws here on the front. This wheel motor has no idea how fast this wheel motor is going. So at full throttle, you might be at a little bit of an angle because one's slower or faster than the other. Just screw that screw in to slow the fast one down. And that way you don't have to fight it while you're mowing and feather it. Let's see, spindle covers here on the outside. Got a spindle cover on both sides. They have soft knobs to them. Make sure your soft knobs stay tight. This deck has a little bit of a shimmer to it. It is stabilized. I'll show you the stabilization here in a minute.
Don't lose your lock ring either.
Yes, and they have a lock ring, lock washer sitting behind them. But I check those probably, it depends on how much you're mowing, probably every 10 acres or so.
Well, when we're moving to power wash, make sure you don't lose your little lock ring or you will lose that knob.
Yeah. Most of the time, you can leave it. There's an air gap here. If your grass is dry and it's not sticking, you can just blow it out and you'll be fine. Like I said, to help stabilize that shimmer is you have this shock here. The spring's pulling in, shock's pushing against it. Help stabilize your belt. Your belt's going to last longer. These are a Kevlar belt, which is the highest industry belt, so you should be fine with it. It's going to help it last longer. Let's see. Obviously, this comes up and out. No pins or anything. Just flip it up. You can hold it up or just take it off. Easy access to everything. Your spindles don't have grease zerts on them. This machine has 8 grease zerts. No, there's none in the front forks. Those are sealed. You're good there. But all of your anti-scalp wheels, you got 2 in the middle, 1 on either side. All of those have zerts, so that puts us at 4. Our deck raising and lowering system, there's a bar that goes across, connects to the foot. So there's a zert up underneath here. You can see the grease popping out. Grease pops out over here as well. There's a zert up underneath. That puts us at 6. You got a 7th one here. That post there is moving for your deck belt. You have a wheel pump belt here. Whenever your engine's on, this is your wheel pump belt. We got a spring right here that's connected to this spindle. Right up underneath the starter, you'll see this bolt head, and there's a hole here. If you go up underneath your mower, it's really the easiest way to get to it, but you can hang on with your fingers up here, and that zert is just inside that hole towards that bolt head. The only other mowers that are going to have extra zerts are the XDs, and they have that rear stabilizer kit in the back. So again, 2 anti-scalp wheels, that will put you at 10, but the majority of the mowers just 8. We've got a 9-gallon fuel tank over here. This doesn't breathe very well, so you hear a real high-pitched whistle, almost sounds somewhat electrical. Just break this, let it breathe before you start pulling cables. Done it. You need to raise your roll bar, obviously. Pull your pin, flip it up. They say if your roll bar's up, put your seatbelt on. If your roll bar's down, leave your seatbelt off so you don't get caught either way. Safeties, you got park brake safety, you have seat safety, you have arm safety, PTO safety. All of them are lit over here on your key console. The numbers or the console's locked right now. It doesn't pull enough power for that 0.5 hours to show. So if I hit start right now, it just says locked and doesn't do anything, but all the LED lights are off. Once you type in your code, the LED light's either gonna go green when it's ready to start, or it's gonna tell you what you gotta fix. Arm, park brake, PTO, and then seat safety. So once all those are fixed, it goes green. Choke it, hold to start. The safeties do have a progression on them. the park brake is on, you can't pull the arms in. So kick the park brake off, right is off, left is on. Kick the right one off, and then pull the arms in, otherwise it's going to kill your mower. Mentality is twofold. One, you don't want to burn up your park brake, so whenever you're trying to mow, it has to be off before it mows. The other thing is safety. If you're like on a hill, incline, out of control, you're about to hit a tree, car, whatever. If the arms are in, you hit the park brake, it's going to stop your mower, and it's going to kill it. So it's twofold. But if you need to open a gate, pick up a stick, arms out, park brake on, you can go, your mower's going to stay on. Deck raising wheel ring system, push with your foot, which is going to pull a tooth out, and then we twist up here, and twist it to 3.5 inches, whatever. It drops a tooth in that, or that tooth in the groove. If it gets too tight, add a little bit of grease to that wheel there. You can see the detent on the back. If it's too loose, you need to tighten the detent, because in theory, if you hit a bump, it can go from 4 inches to 3 inches. So too loose isn't good, too tight isn't good. It's kind of a happy medium. Discharge chutes over here on the right side. You can hit the rubber up against trees and stuff, you're fine. But if you hit this metal portion up here, you're going to bend it below your deck. You're going to be running a snake through your yard, so don't hit that. Engine stuff is there in the manual. Tire pressures, again, there in the manual. If you have the SRTs, or the ones with the radial tires up front, it's a max 28 psi, but inflate and deflate is going to change your suspension on it. The rear tire, again, is a radial tire, max 12 psi, inflate and deflate it again to change up your suspension. The SRTs, though, have a rear wheel suspension with a spring in the back. It's non-adjustable. It's not like the seat suspension where you can adjust it. It is fixed, but those wheels cambered out at 1.5 in the top, and they flex in towards the mower, but nothing you can adjust. All the RTs are a fixed rear axle, but with the radial tire and the seat suspension, it's not really a ride quality issue, it's more of a cut quality issue. That SRT rear wheel is going to flex in and keep your deck a little bit more stable, so your cut's going to be a little bit better.
Go into neutral.
To go into neutral on this machine, the wheel pumps up underneath the seat. Again, flip that seat up, push that lever down. You got this dial on the front. If it's towards the key console, which is to the right as you're sitting on the mower, it is engaged. Flip it over to the left, it's neutral or disengaged, so both towards the gas tank, and then kick the park brake off up front. You would do that if your battery dies, if you get it stuck in the mud, or if you just want to push it around in your shop. It's about a 1,100-pound machine, but you can push it around with not too much trouble with kicking those off and kicking the park brake off. Arms are neutral. There's a groove for the neutral. Don't change the bars up underneath that link to the wheel motor if your neutral is a little bit weird. If you change the bar up underneath, your wheel no longer knows what's neutral, and it walks whenever it goes out. If your mower does walk a little bit, so obviously forward, obviously back. If you hit neutral, which is out, your mower walks a little bit, bring it into the dealer and we'll twist the linkage up underneath to show it where true neutral is. A lot of people have gotten up underneath there to mess with the bars because they're trying to neutralize this. You need to do it up front with the screws. I think that's pretty much it. 9-gallon fuel tank.
No ethanol.
No ethanol. If you use ethanol, there's jets up underneath in your carb, tiny holes, and whenever you use ethanol, golly, it's just it's a real fine coating that just clogs those holes. So you got an air hole and you got a fuel hole, and if they get clogged, the mixture's not right and it runs like crap. So you'll see us in a couple months if you run ethanol through there. So no ethanol, and you should be fine. These are an air-cooled engine, so a lot of people try and answer a phone, they throttle all the way down. If you're on a 10-minute phone call, you've slowed the fan down, your engine's going to heat up. So don't do it that way. Shut your machine off, or if you're mowing or running around, run it at full throttle, which is going to keep the fan at the highest speed possible, and it's going to keep your engine as cool as possible. A lot of people like to run it about a half throttle or a low throttle running around. That does heat up your engine. It's not technically best for it. Kicking the PTO on, Spartan's going to have a recommended RPM for kicking it on, and you can see that. There's buttons over there. You have daytime clock, engine run time, PTO runtime. Next button on there is RPM and battery voltage, and then third is that wrench where we count down to the engine oil change. So RPM is on there, and it is at 0 when it's off. Yeah, we'll click it the first time. There's your RPM of 0. We click it again. There's your battery voltage as it sits. So your owner's manual is going to have a recommended RPM. It's about 3/4 throttle. So engage it at about 3/4, disengage it about 3/4. You'll be fine. If it's too low, it'll kill the engine. If it's too high, it's not really a problem. Your belt's just not going to last as long because it's going to have to spin a little bit to catch up to the engine. But this is a soft start system, so there's a little bit of a clutching mechanism, but you'll just help it out if you started at that 3/4 throttle. I think that should be it. If you have any questions,
All right.
always let us know.
Thank you, Press. Spartan, Oklahoma.